Welcome to the podcast, where something is amiss, something is a mess, and we'll discuss some things MS, multiple sclerosis. This podcast is meant to tell the stories of those living day to day with MS, from before they were diagnosed, getting that diagnosis, the aftermath, and where they are today in their journey with multiple sclerosis. And now, let's get on with the show. Welcome to Some Things MS. And welcome to another episode of Some Things MS, where we're talking about things that are amiss, that are a mess, and multiple sclerosis. That's what the MS is. Not Microsoft. I've had that question. It's like, why are you doing a podcast on Microsoft? It's like, it's not Microsoft, but I work in that world. So, and we're talking to folks who have MS. We're talking to folks who are supporting caregivers, research, just all across the spectrum of people in this world. And today we've got Jennifer Cowan. Is that right? Cowan.
Yeah,
Cowan. Good. Yeah. Cowan with us. So thank you so much for being here with us, Jennifer. I'll give you a second to introduce yourself and welcome to the podcast.
Sure. Well, thank you for having me. I've enjoyed your podcast. I've been listened to most of them. I think I would have really enjoyed this when I was first diagnosed because I feel like you're interviewing people who similar, they're living active lives with this disease, and then people who are helping to make it better and go away. So thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, I'm happy. That's the reason we're doing it. Yep.
Yeah. No, it's awesome. So I'm happy to be here today. Honored to share my story. And so Jennifer Cowan. I live in Denver, Colorado. I've been here, 26 years. Life goes quickly, but I guess I grew up in the Midwest. I moved around quite a bit before I landed out here. But this is the longest I've lived anywhere. So I consider Colorado home, and I'm married 20 years next month. So, and our daughter just graduated high school and she's going off to college in the fall. So that's an exciting change in my life.
It's a huge one.
Yeah. I'm very happy for her. She's landing in a good spot for what she wants to do. So it's exciting time for us. Lots of changes. I have worked in the telecommunications IT industry for all of my career. I've had an opportunity to take a bit of a break since April. So I'm enjoying just having a bit of time off and just now starting to look to see what do I want to do next. And I definitely want to go back to work when my daughter goes to college. I'm not going to have enough to do. So
I hear you.
I'm definitely going to go back to work. But I've enjoyed, having a little bit of time to just do stuff around the house, see friends and family and that sort of thing. So.
Plus a great time with your daughter going off to college. What a great, to have the free time to help her and to just, soak all that last minute, time with her before she heads off into this next adventure. That's pretty special.
Hard
definitely. To pass that up. Yeah. And like you, I don't think I could ever retire. Like, I think I'll always want to do something, maybe I'll slow down and not, work because I have to, but because I, want to somewhere, something different. Well, thank you for sharing that bit. And by the way, I'm also a transplant and close to, I came here in 99. So yeah, I'm pretty close to 25 years from the East Coast. I grew up in Virginia. So, but I love Colorado. And like you, my wife grew up here. So consider this kind of home now. Miss the folks back on the East Coast, but do love the state here and appreciate being here.
Yeah. Great place to be.
Yeah. So obviously we're here to talk about MS. Just give us a little bit of background, kind of, you don't have to go too in depth, but what was your life like before MS and when were you diagnosed? Like what year was it?
So I was actually diagnosed later. I think most people are diagnosed, I don't know if it's 20 to 40. Mm-hmm. I was always very active, but I always struggled with I called them minor nuisances or left leg. I called it my left side failure. There was a book a long time ago that I had read, and that just always stuck with me. I had weakness, I had cramping, not anything major, but, and fortunately, I pursued physical activity to try to combat all of that. So I tried to be very active, doing all the things you do out in Colorado and and always was able to keep active. But I had a couple, probably looking back, they were symptoms, but they were never diagnosed. I had a horrible case of vertigo, where I couldn't get off on my left side for, I don't know, 2 days, I think. It was just terrible. I had tingling and numbness on my left side. I went to physical therapy. The physical therapist said worst case MS. I didn't want to hear that because I didn't know what it was, and it didn't sound like something I wanted to have. And so I just continued to, chase all this stuff with physical activity and even diet. I did a lot to modify my diet. I associated like the vertigo and things like that. Because when I went to the neurologist after that vertigo episode, they couldn't explain why it happened. That was probably 16 years ago. So it was early in the phase. So, I think I always knew I had something, but it was just never diagnosed. And so fast forward, it was 4 years ago. My family and I were skiing in Steamboat, Colorado, or we went up to ski after the Christmas holiday. And I had optic neuritis. I didn't realize that's what it was, but I couldn't see, and I knew I couldn't ski. So I went to the ER, and I was fortunate. There's a wonderful University of Colorado hospital in Steamboat, and they have a neurologist up there now, and she was just recently came on board right before I walked in that Sunday morning, and it wasn't busy. So I was diagnosed in just a couple of hours. It was a pretty
in Steamboat on vacation. You were diagnosed.
Yeah.
That's unusual. Typically, somebody's doing this in their home base somewhere. That's pretty interesting. Just how that lined up.
Yeah,
even
yeah.
to have a neurologist in Steamboat at a high class facility that was able to give you a quick diagnosis like that. How did they come about that diagnosis? Do you mind me asking?
Well, so the optic neuritis was obviously, I think that is a sign now that I've learned. My vision had been declining for, I don't know how long, before I kept attributing it to age and different things.
Sure. Yeah.
And then they did a CAT scan, at my age, they rule out any heart issues. And then they take you to an MRI. So I think that, and then I did a balance test that I failed miserably. And I think I think the MRI is what confirmed it. So
plus your history probably like stacking up, like, hey, all these things that you're attributing to your left side failure to come back and say, hey, wow, all these things kind of line up and start supporting this diagnosis.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah.
So how did that, you mentioned before, like initially when they told you it might be MS, you were kind of like, hold off there, cowpoke. What was, so now you're there and this gal is telling you, no, it's, we're definitive here. What was that like, and how did you handle and process that?
Well, and I think this is, however many years after that first time someone told me MS, I think I knew something was wrong. So, it was a shock to get news of having this sort of a disease without a cure, with a possible disability in your future. But it also was a bit of a relief that I had an explanation for all the things that I struggled with. The irony, I've always loved to ski, and I got progressively worse every year. And I couldn't turn left, which it was the craziest thing. It just, I couldn't figure it out. And I knew how to ski. And so it was ironic that it happened in Steamboat, because that was probably the most obvious thing. But I didn't know, all those years of, I thought I just had to get stronger or take a lesson or whatever. But turns out that was not it. So, yes.
That's
so it was a bit of a relief.
It's the weird thing about this, the way it neurologically presents itself, and that nothing has changed, but your body, your mind is not able to process and send signals to something. Like you said, I know I can turn left. I've done this, 1,000 times, skiing. I know how to, shush down a hill, but at this moment, my brain is trying to tell me how to do it, but that signal is not getting down to the muscles and through the nerves to make my body do what I'm asking it to do, or what it knows how to do, naturally.
And it can just be delayed by, a split second, and that's enough in skiing to make you fall and, not do as well as you used to do. So it's pretty subtle as well.
Yeah. So you did you come right back from Steamboat and kind of get right into an actual neurological assessment, or what was the next steps, and how did you kind of start to process this going forward?
Yeah, so that was about just over 4 years ago. And we didn't come right back to Denver. It was Christmas time. I couldn't get in to see a neurologist in Colorado or in Denver for, I don't know, a couple weeks. And so I just hung out in my hotel room and relaxed. My daughter and my husband skied, and what else were we going to do? And, so yeah, and then you have to wait. It's just always a process. And, I finally went in to see a neurologist, and then they, got me on a treatment plan. And, that early part seemed slow. But then, I think I was pretty fortunate to be in the UC Health system, and all my records transferred to Denver, and I got assigned to a neurologist that I'm still with today. So it all worked out really well. I started treatment then later that year. And I've gotten better since. So my vision's actually better than it has been from years prior. So that's a good thing. So
the vision issue is because that's one of the most common symptoms that presents itself early on, and then for me it didn't show up until later. I have bad vision. Like at age 18, my right eye, we started to notice in school I was having trouble seeing. Went to the doctor really late, like in my senior year. I was like almost 18, and just in my right eye. My left eye was like 20/20 or better, but my right eye was 20/70 or 20/80. Got an astigmatism and just really bad farsightedness. And so they tried a contact lens, and just one, which was hilarious. And it was the first one they made. I felt like it was like, hard as a rock, and I hated putting it in. And then I end up getting glasses and whatever. And you fast forward to now, and at some point in the last, I'd say 10 years, I started noticing my vision would just drop all of a sudden. Like it would get a lot worse, where I would have to wear like 2 pair of reading glasses, or just nonsense like this. Like I would, like I didn't need readers, and I would need readers. And then sometimes like, crap, if I have to wear glasses, I've got to wear readers on top of my glasses. So I'm looking silly, but that's what, and then it would come back like a month later. The first time I thought, I went to the optometrist because I wasn't aware of the vision. For me, it hadn't been a symptom. And so I just wasn't aware. I thought, just my eyes got, like you said, it was age. I got, even though I had MS and I knew, I didn't know. So and then I was like, oh, this is probably MS. So then I would recognize, okay, I would come and go. And my vision has stayed in its normal state, has stayed pretty steady. My prescription hasn't changed in probably 10 years.
Oh, wow.
But I had the weirdest thing happen to me in the last couple months, where my eyes flipped from nearsighted to farsighted, from farsighted to nearsighted.
Oh, that's weird.
I could see without my glasses on up close, but I couldn't see far away. And
that's
it was
weird.
it was totally and so it was like a totally different thing that occurred, that happened for about a month, and then all of a sudden I woke up and it was normal again, like back to my normal farsightedness where I needed more readers. So yeah, it just this vision thing is so interesting, and I'm glad to hear your symptoms are improving. Obviously, that's the goal, and getting into the system and getting treatment and whatever, changing your lifestyle and doing all the things that we do. You mentioned that. What changes did you make? You mentioned diet. Maybe just go through those again, like the things you changed specifically that worked for you, that you're still doing, and to help yourself out.
I mean, the good news is when I was diagnosed, I had already done, I was pretty physically active. I had gone down the gluten-free path and received a celiac diagnosis, along with some other food allergies, food sensitivities. So my diet and exercise were pretty good. But I did switch. I took Pilates or yoga for probably 10 years. And I switched to Pilates just before I was diagnosed, and actually just after I was diagnosed, and that's been the best thing for me. I really love it, because I still struggle with left leg. It feels weaker. That's why I ride an e-bike. That's one of the places we met. I think my muscles are equally strong, but I just don't ride as fast, or I can't run very fast. So And Pilates has really been the thing that's helped me the most. And a lot of tightness and, things on my left side. And I just love Pilates. So I do that 3 times a week. I swim, I bike, but those are all things that I did before. I think I'm now I'm more committed to do something every day. Whether it's just walking or biking, I think it's just important to keep active. So
just in general in life. I like you, I was already doing a lot of work exercise wise and diet wise. And I know it's tough, but having that mindset and actually being in that kind of shape leading into it was definitely helpful for me. My neurologist mentioned that a number of times and even went on to study more of the exercise component of assisting with folks with multiple sclerosis. Like how do we get this worked in a more strong way, because it's important. It's important to be safe, because obviously, like you said, sometimes our balance is off, our equilibrium's off, and you can't necessarily go full scale into running or lifting weights or doing, yoga poses where you could fall over or hurt yourself. So you got to be careful. But at the end of the day, it's also good for balance. I've done yoga and it definitely, all this work and all this muscle work and stretching is good for the balance. It's good for your positive mentality. There's so many benefits out of that. So it's great that you were doing it before, because you've got that kind of, built-in mindset, that muscle memory around doing it. When you don't have it, it's harder to get into it. But certainly impactful for sure.
Yeah. I think I'm more committed to doing it daily. And in fact, I just noticed, I haven't read through it all, but the most recent Rocky Mountain MS newsletter that we get, I don't know if you received that, but it's all about the importance of exercise.
Yeah.
And it's the first time I've seen that much focus around exercise and being active. So
yeah, it was interesting. This has been years ago now, but there was a point, I'm going to say 5 years ago, where my neurologist had been at a conference, medical conference, and he was talking about exercise, and there was actually pushback in the community amongst the medical community because of the potential dangers and the unknown. And, both he and I were like, how can exercise be bad? Again, within a safe environment, controlled depending on your abilities, how can it be bad? My mom is 77. She's had a lung transplant, and she's like, I'm tired. And it's like, my advice is always like, hey, if the doctor says it's okay for you to walk, even if you only walk 100 yards, start and do it, and you do it within the guardrails you can do it in, and start to build your yourself up to bigger and better exercise, because it just can't be a bad thing at the end of the day, if you're doing it safely. No downside. And to where we are, like you said, now we're at when my neurologist just retired, but he was again talking, like you said, it's more prevalent now, the talk of exercise and as part of the regimen and program to keep people ambulatory and healthy. You mentioned bike MS and biking. Let's talk a little bit. So you 4 years ago, you're diagnosed. Before I do that, I was interested. You mentioned your family's out skiing, which is awesome, and you were at home. I didn't have computer access in 2004 when I was diagnosed. It was just, we just had AOL, and it was dial up, and there was not a lot of information, right? So I wasn't getting that flow. It was all like hands-on information from like the Rocky Mountain MS Center and pamphlets and stuff. Did you spend that free time Googling, and were you kind of busy trying to figure out what was going on, or were you trying to just relax and not worry about it and just wait till you got into the flow?
It's kind of I remember that time in the hotel room. There was a lot of telling my family and processing it all, and definitely, reading. And that's why this podcast you're doing, I think, is great, because as we've learned, MS is different for everybody. And, I think you can often hear a lot of the really bad stuff, like all social media. And so I think your podcast is great, because, the people you bring on are people like us who are active and, making the most out of, what we can with this disease. So, I don't know that I went down that hole right away, but it's easy to do. And I've had to take myself off of some of the, threads and different things, because everyone's different, and you can't compare yourself. You can't, diagnose yourself, and it takes a while too.
Yep.
The medicine takes a while to work and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, definitely a
each
weird
journey is
time.
different. You bet. And I agree with you. Some of the broader forums, I find the threads can be troubling because, if I answer, I always answer with, here's my journey.
Yeah.
You should keep, pecking away at your journey. There's no definitive. Like when I see somebody definitively say, oh, take this and you'll be fine, or I did this and it's going to cure you, or that always, it's a little irritating, just because you do want to say, hey, it's awesome that it worked for you. And I'm so happy to hear you are improving because of this,
Yeah.
but that doesn't mean it's going to work for everybody. And each person has to but do what we're doing. I consume information and keep it. And it's like, oh, Jennifer told me something she did. I'm going to try that. I'm going to incorporate that. I'm going to think about it. And if it works, great. If it doesn't, it doesn't. And that's just, that's my path.
Yeah.
So you got diagnosed 4 years ago. When did you get into bike MS? Was it right away or?
It was right away. So I was diagnosed the end of 2020.
Okay.
So essentially the start of 2021. My husband is an active cyclist, and he actually met Steve Clayton up at Colorado State when they were in college. So,
cool.
And he's always said he wants to do bike MS to ride with his friend Steve. And so when I was diagnosed, it was a no-brainer that we were going to do this.
Yeah.
And
Steve's a cool guy. What a great team to join too.
Yeah.
I love them.
No, it has been great. It's been great to join a group of people that we had a connection, and even for me, was that COVID years? I saw such a.
So 2020, we didn't have a ride, and 2021 was the first year was back, but it was a 1 day ride that year.
Yeah. So that was my first ride, so it's been great to be a part of that community, and Steve is great. He's put together a great team, and we finally reached our $1 million.
I know, man, that was awesome. Definitely brought tears to my eyes when I heard that. That's amazing. Yeah. So many of these legacy teams are crossing that threshold over the last couple of years. It's so cool to see, like, these friends and family. Like, obviously, Left Hand is crushing it. The Raw Heinies have been doing it forever before they disbanded, but to see some of these kind of legacy, smaller friends and these 20 to 30 person teams that are just grinding it out, but doing it, for 25 years, like Steve has, and, our team's been around that long, and it's just so fun and so nice to see.
Yeah. So I did not have an e-bike that first year. And, I think I was the last person across the finish line, and, but I finished.
I would say you finished, and that's the cool thing, and it's all that really matters at the end of the day.
Yes. But that was when I decided that I needed an e-bike, because I do love to bike, and it's just easier for me to keep up with our friends and things like that. So it's been great. We love it. So
yeah. So I was gonna go ahead.
I was gonna say we're actually a 2-car family for 3 people. So we bike a lot. So we have lots of e-bikes in this household, and we definitely love it.
Awesome. Yeah, no, I think 2022 was the first year they were allowed, or was it 2021? I think 22 might've been the first year they were letting e-bikes on the course, which is, that's a game changer. I think I heard, if I'm not mistaken, I can't remember if it was Erica that told me this, or maybe Steve told me this, in passing, that did you beat your husband the second year?
Oh yeah.
On day 1 or day 2, that it was it was kind of a fun milestone to say, hey, I beat
that last hill.
Yeah. So
that's when if I know I have enough battery to make it, I use it all. And he does not have that, so it's and I wait for him at the end. I feel bad, but not that bad.
Not that bad. Yeah. So it's interesting, because I've been thinking about an e-bike. Early on, I've been really physically active and blessed with good genetics and all the things that make me a decent athlete. And so I was able to ride these rides early on consistently and stay with the team. But these last 4 to 5 years have been a struggle. I mean, I finish typically. It's not been a problem finishing. It's just I'm like you said, I'm coming in on the tail end of the team side typically, and not riding the full 75. I get in 62, maybe 70, somewhere in 130 to 140 miles, depending.
Mm-hmm.
I miss going up Horsetooth. You know, that was a fun kind of culmination. Didn't enjoy it the second day out, but the first day was always fun, kind of hitting it and getting that out of the way. So I've been looking at kind of that transition to an e-bike, just for that purpose of, hey, I'll be able to pedal, but when it comes time to get that extra boost when I need it, especially up hills, they're just, I mean, that used to be my bread and butter. I weigh 100, between 120 and 130 pounds with strong legs, and hills were my, that was where I got to beat everybody early on, and downhills never, because I have zero body weight to get me downhill, and I'm afraid, and I'm always braking. So
I don't like going downhill either. So
so uphills were great. So I missed that. So so an e-bike is probably in my future. I just got done with the bike MS 150 in Virginia. And it was all flat for the most part. So it was a lot of pedaling, a lot of mental game, because there's no coasting.
You have to work the whole time.
You have to work the whole time. And I did 150, which was, I was,
wow, that's
impressed with myself. Yeah. Wasn't the fastest. I think I averaged 14 miles an hour, all throughout, the course of the 2 days, and certainly wasn't, the first person in, but had it, I felt good about it. But I think e-bike's definitely in my future, and I'm glad they're because I've talked to so many people that are able to extend their bike life and appreciate the opportunity to contribute in that way.
Yeah, they still have to figure out the charging stations, which Erica says there'll be better this year. The first year, I think I had to charge from a snow cone truck. They were supposed to have
at the event somewhere, or like on the side of the road. You just pulled over, like, hey, you.
It was one of the event people that were there.
Oh, cool, yeah.
And it was my first year riding with the e-bike, so I didn't, just judging. I didn't know how. I knew I could get a range of 60 some miles, and I keep it in the low eco mode until I go uphill.
Can you bring extra batteries, or like how hard is it?
The next year we bought an extra battery, and so now I have an extra battery, and there's supposed to be an actual charging station. There hasn't been the last 2 years that they've allowed them. So hopefully there is a charging station. I suggested they do it at lunch, but.
Can you? Yeah, that'd be good if they had just like a generator or something at the lunch stop. That way you could charge mid-time, because you got a 30-minute stop there basically.
Oh yeah,
where you get a pretty good charge in for sure.
Yeah.
And what about the weight of an e-bike? Is it so if you're not using the assist, is it a lot heavy? I mean, obviously it's got to be heavier.
Mine is really heavy.
Feel that?
Yeah. And I don't know. I've had mine for a couple of years now. I'm curious. The technology's obviously evolved.
Yeah.
I think mine is heavier than most. But once you get going on it, it kind of kicks in, and it seems like it's about the same. In terms of the pedal, you still got to work out. It's not like you're coasting. It's not a what is it? Pedal assist versus like a small mini bike. Which I rode on one of those in a tour in a city a couple weeks ago or a couple months ago, and I did not like that at all. I was not used to it, and it was a lot of kind of herky jerky stop and go. But pedal assist is definitely the way to go.
And did it take you a while to get used to that even, or is that pretty easy?
No, it's very easy. Yeah, very easy. Yeah, I highly recommend them. I think they have automatic.
You just start pedaling, and is there a button you push to actually kick it in?
You just pedal. Pedal. And mine has a throttle on the side to, kind of make it harder and easier for hills. And then, there's several different modes that, how much kind of push you get from it. So you definitely, you still work, and, it's still pedaling the whole time. People, all the comments I get on the course, they want to draft on me and trade bikes, and, gets a little old, but,
yes. So, or I've heard worse. I mean, I shared this at some point, but there was a gal, I think it was 2 years ago, the first year they had the assist, or it might've been, or the e-bike. It might've been last year. I can't remember which, but anyway, she was at a rest stop and was just kind of in tears. And, she had started off on a regular bike in training, but just didn't think she was going to make it. So she ended up riding an e-bike. And unfortunately, there were some people giving her opposite grief about, because it was I think it must have been the first year, like, oh, you're riding an e-bike. Like, this doesn't count. It just, it's unfortunate that kind of onus was put on her. And hopefully, a lot of people, talked to her and hopefully brought her back up. And it's like, hey, this is your ride. You do it your way.
Yeah.
If you're doing it on the back of an elephant, doesn't matter. Whoever you get up and do your thing, the main thing is not, Chris Leonard put it directly. He's Left Hand's captain and COO of Left Hand Brewery. We're not riding, we're fundraising. So it doesn't matter if you ride a motorcycle. At the end of the day, if you're fundraising for the cause, that's the most important part.
Well, and I don't know, I'm curious the number, maybe how many of us that actually ride with MS.
I just was actually shocked by this. I don't know the exact number. I do for Virginia because they announced it and I was just there. It was 21 out of 600 people.
Wow.
So it was fewer than I thought. I thought for some reason there were more percentage wise. And then in Colorado, I think the number is around 100.
Okay.
People, but somewhere plus or minus. I feel like I heard that like 100. Again, there might be a few. It might be over 100, but I can't remember the exact number. But again, fewer than I thought. That's again less than at its height. It's about 10% or less.
Yeah. Well, and a lot of them probably don't ride the full ride. I know I've my bike has inspired people to ride, when they've seen me doing it. So that's what I'm happy about. If it lets people be active and get out there, then that's better than doing nothing. So, and I do the full ride. I do the extra miles since I have the e-bike. So, which I wouldn't do otherwise because I wouldn't finish. It'd probably be dark.
Yeah, I had to scale back. I've been doing the full 150. I've only done a 100-mile day one time just to do it. It was early on. So I just had done typically the 150 but the last couple of years I've scaled back both those days to, I end up, like I said, around 130. I usually do the 62 and 68 somewhere. I think those are the 2 mileage kicks. But if I were on an e-bike, I definitely would appreciate like I said, going back up and down Horsetooth. It's just a fun, part of the ride.
Yeah. I did Horsetooth for the first time last year and it was so beautiful. So
it's beautiful to get up there and see everything before you head back down, whichever way you're going.
Yeah.
Cool. I was going to bring up top of mind topics that I just want to make sure I talk to you about. If you haven't met him, I'll introduce you at this ride. There's a guy named Casey Murphy.
Oh, I've met Casey actually. I met him. He's the one that went to the School of Mines, right? Is he the right?
I can't remember. He definitely is from Colorado, lives in Florida now, does multiple rides. He's a passport rider. But the reason
I'm thinking someone else.
It could be, but he's his other life is a lot of dog rescue. And I noticed you had some activity on Facebook around that. And I thought you guys might appreciate talking about. He like literally drives dogs around the country to make sure they have homes. Like he lives in Florida, but he'll drive states over to deliver a dog and make sure awesome. Really committed to the safety and health of those pups. So really cool dude. He's from Colorado, moved to Florida, but he's coming back for this ride. He's passporting in for this ride here, so he'll be in town for that. Yeah. Anything else we didn't cover that you think people would want to know about your story? It's been awesome hearing it and kind of navigating through the different aspects because, like I said, everybody's got a different journey, and it was interesting hearing yours.
Yeah, I just hope people can get diagnosed. My tagline is I ride for awareness, for earlier diagnosis, for improved treatment, and hopefully a cure. So
yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. Like so, when I started, it was all about helping people cope, and now it's about cure is at the end, is at the finish line off there somewhere in the distance, and that's such a big change and a big piece of hope, and not just cure, but also repair. I mean, as they're working through this, it's like people who are living with it progressively and non-progressively, repairing that myelin damage and making your quality of life even that much better. So cool.
Yeah, I have hope we'll see it in our lifetime. So we'll see.
I believe so. As fast as an advancement as we've made from the time that I was diagnosed to today, I think it's definitely within our sights for sure. And the good work we're doing to raise funds and raise awareness.
For sure.
Chipping away. Yes. Cool. All right. Well, it's time now for a new segment. I told you at the beginning before we got on. I used to call it Fast 4 or Fave 4, but this new segment's called Quick Release. It's quick release. Yeah, it was suggested by a friend, and I like it. So we're going to do a quick release. 4 quick questions, top of mind. I'm going to throw them out there, and you just answer as quick as you can, and I will answer as quick as I can. Favorite food?
Oh gosh, favorite food. Cookies. Gluten-free cookies. Yes.
Which ones? My daughter's gluten-free, and we went through a whole, like, she was diagnosed back in 2005 or something. I mean, before it was like Kinnick was like the only brand we could find. Now there's so many different brands of.
I don't know where you live in Denver, but River and Roads is
okay.
I love all they have. It's north of City Park, and then there's one downtown.
Okay.
And they have delicious breakfast sandwiches, cookies, you name it. That's my treat place. So
awesome.
Yes.
I'm going to throw out, if somebody asks me, I'm always a comfort food person. I don't eat it a ton, but mashed potatoes and gravy. It's like I grew up, like I would eat that in a heartbeat anywhere, anytime.
Yes.
Gotta be real, not instant. When you're riding, second question, when you're riding and you need nourishment, is it gummies or goo or something else?
I don't really eat either of those. Again, being celiac, those things, gummies are typically not friendly. I typically just have a bar.
Okay. Do you have a go-to bar?
Lately I've been eating Midday Squares.
Okay.
But there's also a lot more on the market now. So,
ton.
So I'm not too finicky. I love peanut butter and chocolate. So if that flavor is an option, I'll take that.
Yeah. My good friend I ride with loves peanut butter and honey sandwiches. That's his go-to, bike snack, is like, it's got everything: peanut butter, protein, honey for sweet, and a little bit of carbs.
Yeah.
Cool. Next question, favorite live performance, musical or otherwise?
Oh gosh. Most anything at Red Rocks. We go to a lot of shows. In fact, we're going to the Rolling Stones tomorrow night. So
get out. That's awesome. I'm never going to see them. Probably, I know they'll be around another 10 years, so I'll get to them.
Yes. Hopefully. Yes.
Man, there's that energy that Mick Jagger has. I need some of that for sure.
Yes. Yes.
Sweet. That's awesome. I was going to ask you what your last show was, but we'll leave it with the Rolling Stones. I was just at Red Rocks this year too. I don't get there as often as I'd like, but I saw Gary Clark Jr. there earlier the year. Great show. And again, almost any show there is pretty decent.
Yeah.
All right. And the last thing, I just added this in. I don't know how it came up. I was wanted to make sure I knew what quick release meant. I thought it was pedals, but it's the bike tire. So I wanted to make sure I had. So when I did that, I found this whole website of biking terms. And so I'm going to give you a biking term, and you can tell me what it means. Potato chipped.
I have no idea.
Potato chipped is when you've crashed, unfortunately, and your tire, your wheel is curved but not bent like a taco. It's curved like a potato chip.
I've seen that. Yeah.
That is potato chipped.
Okay. Yeah. Neil keeps getting.
I want this
my husband, like he has the spray in his wheels. Well, I guess I do too, but I don't hit curbs, and he hit the side of his wheels. I don't know how he did it. I'm sure it's not uncommon. And so he had a bit of a hole, but that sealant kept it for us to do a 30-mile ride last weekend. So
wow, yeah, what's
amazing.
That stuff called? It's like green. Is that green goop or something that's in there? I've seen it.
Yeah, and it kind of sprays out when he's riding, and so that's when I know he's done something. And thankfully, my tires must be thicker, because I have not, knock on wood, I have not had that happen. So yeah,
that's funny.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, Jennifer, thank you so much for joining us and sharing your story. I appreciate it. And
thank you for doing this. It's a great podcast. Hopefully it helps a lot of people.